My name is Jason Ward. I'm a birder. I'm born and raised in the South Bronx, which I'm very proud of, but I'm a Southerner now, an honorary Southerner. I've lived in Atlanta for the last 12 years. So I currently work in community relations and outreach for National Audubon. And I also host a web show called Birds of North America, which is my dream job coming to fruition, essentially. I loved insects. I loved big cats. I loved dinosaurs. I loved anything that breathed and existed in the wild. Birds wound up being the favorite for a lot of reasons. I didn't become a birder officially until 7 years ago. I was working at this mortgage corporation and I got a promotion. That promotion allowed me to do two things. It allowed me to have some free time on the weekends and it put a little bit more money in my pocket. And I decided to pursue something that I loved. I love sports, but I was a little older and slower than I was back in the day. But animals, that stayed with me growing up, and it was like a light bulb over my head. So I looked up local birding or wildlife organizations in the Atlanta area, discovered Atlanta Audubon, and attended a bird walk. I quickly realized I was way in over my head. The guides and the people attending the walk were so knowledgeable. They knew so much. I wanted to be able to do what they did. So I downloaded apps, I researched, went on YouTube, tried to learn as quick as I can, as much as I can. 8 months later, I was a field trip leader. I was leading that exact same bird walk. And the rest is full throttle from there. So when I was younger, growing up in the Bronx, I had to scratch the itch for knowledge of wildlife, but I had to do it covertly. It wasn't a cool thing to be an animal nerd, to come up to someone and say, hey, you know, the cheetah is the fastest land animal, or the polar bear is the largest land carnivore. People are gonna throw stuff at you for that. So I did it mostly internally and also with my younger siblings. I have 3 younger brothers. They caught the brunt of it, and also my parents as well. We would go to the Bronx Zoo and I would drag them around the Bronx Zoo, pop quizzing them at each and every animal enclosure that we passed by. So I unloaded it on them, but I couldn't do it outwardly. I had to keep it a secret, essentially.
Do you remember what your spark bird was?
I have it tattooed on me. I would never forget it. Peregrine falcon. It is not only the fastest animal on Earth, it can be found on 6 of the 7 continents. It's the wandering falcon, and it represents so much for me. So the first time that I remember that I saw it, I was about 14 or 15 years old, and there were some feathers that were kind of floating by my window. So being the nosy New Yorker that I am, I ran to the window to check. And sure enough, about 30 feet from me, there was a peregrine falcon just defeathering, plucking the feathers off of a pigeon, which is unofficially New York's like state bird, right? And the interesting part about that sighting is it was a really cool sighting, but it took place at a dark time. At the time, the window that I was looking out of was the window of a homeless shelter. So that's where I was with my family for about 4 or 5 years. And this was a bird that could, well, I knew that birds in general could bring me temporarily out of a bad space. So them having that power, it was a match made right there. I knew that these animals had the ability to make me forget about the stresses of everyday life, essentially. Going to a lot of these birding festivals or just simply leading bird walks, you're seeing familiar faces, you're making new friends, and and most importantly, especially for me, you get to act as an ambassador between folks, people, and the wild world out there. And people appreciate that, right? I looked up to so many people growing up, Steve Irwin, Jeff Corwin, the Kratt brothers. They were able to communicate their love for the outdoors with anyone watching. Now I'm able to return that favor, especially with the younger generation. We tend to gravitate towards familiar images. So if I'm a person of color growing up, I'm turning the TV on and I'm watching ESPN and I see LeBron James dunking a ball. That's cool. He looks like me. I can do that. Or I turn on MTV or VH1 and I see a R&B or a rap artist. Oh, that's cool. He also looks like me. I can do that too. But if I turn on National Geographic or Animal Planet, there's no representation. No one looks like me there. So that channel just gets tossed to the side. But there's a whole entire world out there that needs voices from every community. So if I can be that face of representation and bring other incredibly talented people into the fold who can also help get that message out, I think the more diverse the voices are, the better shape the future world will be in. So if someone was going birding for the first time, I would tell them to just go into it with their expectations kind of open. There's so much curiosity, so much wonder in simply just observing. And I would just tell them, take a couple deep breaths. Get out there, take a couple of deep breaths. At the end of their experience, they'll feel a little bit better. And I think that's the best part about what birding brings to the table.